Hey everyone, coming at you today with a tutorial for animation. Just doing another live video Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 p.m. It's kind of late, but it's always fun, right? So today we're going to be talking about doing another celebration animation. This celebration animation will be an animation for when you have a victory, right? The last videos that we did, the last 3 videos that we did, focused on doing a celebration animation that had to do with the character select. Let's go ahead and view that real quick. That's not the one. Let's see, selection celebrate, right? And this one's a really fun animation that we created. Here. Does a little fist pump. Jumps in the cart. It's really fun, right? Now this was just for the selection, right? When you are in the main character selection screen, this was just for the selection. So we did that the last few videos, and these next few videos we are going to do a selection celebrate animation, right? I mean, sorry. A victory celebration. So when he wins a race, that's when he'll do his victory, whatever he's going to do. What I'm wanting him to do is I'm wanting him to do a, let's see here. Everything pops back in place. What I'm wanting him to do is after he finishes, I want him to take his hammer, slam it on the ground, and then outside the cart, right? And then he goes like this, right? And that's the idea for today. I don't know how it's going to work out. It's my first idea. Maybe it'll be a good idea. We're going to go ahead and block it out and see what it looks like. So right now, I think for that last animation we did, I had the parent constraint turned off for Mallet following the cart chassis, and so we need to go and turn that off real quick. Just in the hypergraph here. I use the hypergraph. I was taught to use the hypergraph just because you can see everything a little bit in a different kind of view. A lot of people use the outliner, which is fine too. Oh, it looks like he is attached to the chassis. Never mind. Okay. So let's go ahead and start this out. You can select all the controls, and just like every other time, everybody, we're going to be going for an hour. So whatever we get done in an hour is where we'll go from there for the next time and the next time. And maybe it'll take 3 videos, maybe it'll take 2. Not quite sure. So let's go ahead and select all of our controls, and then press the new layer with selection added, and this is going to be called World Victory Celebrate. Celebrate. My fingers do not work today. Okay. So now we are going to go in and duplicate we're going to take the first frame from the idle. Copy. Paste. Okay. And let's clamped and stepped. Just a few steps we have to go through before we fully start the animating process, right? deciding to freeze for a moment just because it has to draw all these curves here. I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. Okay. Here we go. Select all those, step those, and go back in here and turn everything off. And then just turn on our curves and our polys, get rid of all those crazy wacky numbers, press 6, get all our stuff back. Right? Okay, so now we're in blocking mode, okay? So the first thing Mallet Boy's gonna do is he is going to take his mallet and he's going to smash it on the ground. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to build out this pose and just first off see what it looks like when the mallet hits the ground, right? I would usually start in the storytelling pose, which is, you know, him raising his fist in the air and go, yeah, I won, right? But since this is kind of a critical thing here of where the mallet is hitting the ground, and it might change depending on players next to you or something, or how the mallet is going to be able to touch the ground and go into the ground, and how it's going to clip through the tires and stuff. So we want to make sure we put it on a certain, we do it the right way, right? We don't want it clipping through the cart. We don't want it clipping through the tire or anything, right? Let's turn on our graph here. Oh, it's just really tiny. It's okay. These circles are on 0, and so I'm just gonna go like this. And for right now, it looks like the mallet will be good right there. And so, for now, I mean, when we get into the animation, we detach the mallet. We will just have it go right there, and then in the next frame, it will snap down onto the ground and be laying there flat, right? And we're gonna have to play with this a little bit. We're gonna have to switch. We're gonna have to turn the parent constraint off from the hand to the mallet, right? We're gonna have to animate that parent constraint. It's not hard. You just gotta add the parent constraint to the layer, but we'll get to that, right? And so when he does that, he's going to look over, because this is an intentional thing. Oh, it looks like we got to do a follow space as well. Maybe follow the route here. There we go. And so he's going to look over with his body. Look over with his head, look it down at the mallet. Okay, down the mallet. Just get his eyes going like that, right? Probably leaning over just a little bit. Like this. His arm is stretching a bit. Maybe you can lean over with this and scoot his chest over. Still not giving us that bent arm. See how far we have to pull this in for it to bend. Okay. It's fine right there. Right. We'll say it's fine right there. And when we actually get into the more detailed stuff, we'll make sure the mallet comes off of his hand and goes onto the ground. And we'll do a little sleight of hand kind of thing, right? Okay. And so the next storytelling pose is I've got this looking good, and you'll see why it's important that I did this pose first, because that's coming quite close to that, to the tire there, and you'll see that it might cause a problem here with the cart. And so maybe just to be safe, I want to rotate this in like this and then pull it over and out like this, right? Just to be safe, so we can get enough space and good silhouette from that tire to that hammer. And you know what? Maybe when we get in the game, he just completely just throws it down in front of the cart like that, or something. For right now, we'll just say he smashes it on the ground and then he's gonna let go of it, and then pump his fists up in the air and go, yeah, right? And so when he does that, this next pose, we're gonna turn off the parent constraint from the hand to the mallet. So we'll grab the mallet, press F here. Let's see if we can't find that parent constraint. Let's see. Mallet parent constraint, right? And so we just need to add that to this layer. Add selected layer. It's still parent constraint. It didn't do any harm. And so we need to make sure that is selected. And then we put, let's see, right here. And we press S, right? Okay. Let's go ahead and save this bad boy. Heart started palpitating for just a second. And then press 0, turns it off, and you'll see that it's snapped. That's okay. Right, that's okay. That's not a problem. We hide it in the action, right? Mallet Boy's gonna throw the hammer down, and it's gonna hit the ground, and then that's when it hits. But that's when we want to turn off the parent constraint, and that's when that switch is gonna happen. You're not even gonna notice it, right? You notice it now because his hand is stationary. We're just in the blocking phase. And so now, actually, we can just flatten this hammer out easily and put it right there on the ground, and we'll see what that looks like. Let's see. Looks like. And so it's good seeing where it's going to end up at, right? And so you're going to want to pull this forward just a little bit so it separates from that cart, like that. And that's going to tell us, and then we scrub to here, it's going to tell us where we need to get the hammer and Mallet Boy's body, right? And now that looks a little more natural, right, when you scrub through those. I mean, maybe we need to pull it out just a little bit more. But you're not going to notice this, right? And when we get into it's going to be such a fast action that it'll be almost unnoticeable. And you know what, like I said, when he does it, he might instead of reaching his hand all the way out to do it, he might just, throw it and then it'll hit the ground. Maybe just do a little hop or something. And so it won't be a problem. No matter what, we will figure it out. And so it looks nice. Okay, so now since the mallet on this pose on here is off of his hand, I want to do this next storytelling pose of him pumping his hands in the air, right? And declaring himself victor. And showing off for the crowd and all that good stuff, right? I will say in these videos I haven't done much with the hat, and I think that's just because I don't think there's much we can do with the hat, just because it's stuck to his head, right? When you wear a hat, it doesn't flap around or whatever, and we haven't done really too many like cartoony, like hopping up and stuff where his hat would come off of his head and then bounce back onto his head or something like that. And once we get this in game, once we looked at it, we've actually looked at Mallet Boy in game now, and there's actually quite a few animations that I want to change, like the idle. I've seen it in game, and probably be posting a video up on the YouTube channel about, you know, where we're at with the game, and let all the viewers see what's going on and see Mallet Boy in the game. And I want to push the animations, right? I want to exaggerate them. They're not exaggerated enough, which sounds kind of funny because in the old videos when we were watching the idle animations, they were doing a lot, right? But once you get them in game and blending with each other and everything, it's completely different. It doesn't look like the same in Maya because of camera view and just the way animations blend together. And so, so with this hat, I will probably go in and I'll do some more fun stuff, polished work with the hat. That will be a lot more fun. Okay, so now we're just posing him out. And you know what, since I'm in here, I actually already animated a Celebrate animation that I just didn't like before. You'll notice here in this layer it says Win Celebrate. And it might look like this is good. And maybe I'll end up using it for something, but I animated this and I ended up not liking it. And the reason I ended up not liking it is it didn't feel right? I had these limitations with the hammer. The pose is working right of the hammer above his head, but as you can see, the hammer was really close to his head, and it would have just clipped through, and it just wasn't working out quite like I wanted it to, right? Let's play it, and I didn't go too much farther with this animation. It's very rough, and it's not anywhere where it needs to be, where it should be, but I was just going through and doing some quick stuff, and I just didn't like where the mallet was sitting on his head, and his arms have to reach really high, and it just kind of looks weird, and so I just didn't like it, right? And so I guess you can say that was my first idea. This is not my first idea, but I think this idea is this idea will be a lot cooler, a lot better, because there's going to be a lot of weight to that hammer especially when we get the special effects in there. It's going to throw it down, it's going to go boom, it's going to hit the ground and create this really cool rubble effect. It'll be really awesome. It'll add a lot more weight to that mallet there. Because I feel like in that other animation, the weight on the mallet kind of gotten stolen. When he's holding it up with both hands, you really didn't get the feel of the weight of that mallet. And so this way, he's going to throw it on the ground, it's going to hit, boom, and it's going to feel really heavy and cool. And the nice thing about this, changing the animation so the hammer isn't above his head, is, I mean, I don't have to completely break the model in order to get this to work, right? In order it to look good. Before, I was having to pull the model, I was having to pull the arm super far up to get it so the hammer came above his head. And so it just wasn't working out as well as it needed to. And you know what? I might go ahead and just use this one fist, right, where he's yeah, and he's doing that instead of doing this. Because I'm from behind, at least, I'm actually really liking this pose from behind. It's looking pretty cool, and we get some asymmetrical pose, right? Because when I stick the hands in the air, both hands are going to be in the air doing this, and I can. There's going to be some twinning going on, right? I can change it so that the hands are in different positions, right? One's lower than the other, and going like this. But at the same time, I mean, the hands are still kind of twinning a little bit. The only thing we're doing is making it so they're different levels, and that's not bad. But wherever you can get an asymmetrical pose is the best. But for the sake of what we already discussed, I'm gonna go ahead and stick his hand up in the air right now and just see what it's gonna look like, right? Might as well entertain the idea, because honestly, I only entertained the idea of having this one glove in the air, this one hand in the air, right? And so I just want to put this hand through the rounds, and honestly, this hand, the lacrosse glove hand, is just, it's much cooler. It's a lot more dynamic, right? It's because it's a lacrosse glove, and this other hand is just kind of a ordinary hand. And so I think now getting into this pose, I feel like this is a little too childish, right? Our character, Mallet Boy, is a younger character, but it just feels a little childish to me. Having one hand in the air, though, it definitely feels a lot more like he's older and more mature. Yeah, right. And I like that one hand in the pose, and it keeps his hand on the wheel. And I don't know, I just like this pose a lot more, so we're gonna go with this. And so one of the cool things we can do in this animation is we can play around with the acting a lot, right? We can either go, we can do two directions with this. We can either have him just go, yeah, looking around side to side, right? Or we can go, yeah, and then he looks to this side, and he looks to this side, right? And he's going from one side to the other, and that's a nice thing to do because he's not just going back and forth like this animation. When I was playing with it, he was just kind of, and I know this is rough and this animation isn't the best, but he just was going back and forth, and it just doesn't, it looks robotic. It looks he looks like a CGI game character, right? But and there's no thought process in his brain. He's just going back and forth, right? Nobody does that. More on the acting side of things, if you can, if we make it so he's looking to the left side and saying, yeah, pumping his fist, yeah, right, doing that, then it gives him a thought process, right? And the camera will probably, similar in Mario Kart, the camera will probably go around to the other side of Mallet Boy, and it's going to be looking at him, right? And we're going to see his eyes, right? And when we do the eyes, we're going to have them pumping, going, yeah, and we're going to have them kind of, doing eye darts, called eye darts, and they're going to kind of be shifting, and so he's looking at the crowd, right? Looking at the crowd and looking at the crowd, and so that's going to add put a brain inside of his head, and it's not going to feel like a CGI game character anymore at that point, right? He's going to feel like he's got a personality and everything, or he's got a brain inside of his head, I guess I should say. Let's close his hand here and get a nice, good fist pose. I always love working with hands, just because you do it. If you draw a hand right or you pose a hand right, it just looks super cool. And honestly, it can really make or break a drawing or a pose. Just a hand pose can really make or break a pose, because they're such a small, detailed part of the human body that a lot of people, and the sizing on them, right? The sizing on them has to feel accurate. If they don't feel accurate to the proportions of the character, I mean, you can have a character that has super big hands or super small hands, but if it's not proportionate to other parts of the character, it's just going to look weird, and people notice that instantly, right? It's fine to have caricatured hands and stuff, but you've got to have them on the right character and the right character design, because you can have this big bulky character, maybe I mean maybe this would work, maybe it wouldn't, but with these tiny hands, and it might work, it might not work, or this, it'd have to be out the character design, but there's definitely some things. The hands are just a really good piece of any drawing or pose that will really make or break a pose. And I really like this hand pose here. It's really working. See from the front. It's got to look good from the back and the front. So let's curl this knuckle in just a little bit more. I'm fine with this is kind of and this is where you have to make a decision. I'm fine with how far away his fingers are from his palm. Let's see what it looks like from the back. If I, okay, that looks fine. You've got to really make a decision here with these, because it feels a little too close to me now. I think this is a good pose. The thumb technically isn't overlapping over the fingers here, and that's fine. This instance, right? People are just gonna see the overall outline of the hand, and the hand is more doing something like this, right? People are just gonna see the outline of that hand mostly, and so they get the gist of it, and their eyes, their peripheral vision, if you would, will see that, and they'll look over it because it looks technically correct. And you know what? We just pulled that thumb up, and it's looking a lot. I like this a lot more because it is overlapping the fingers, and looks better that way. Maybe we can point this hand down. And I'm focusing on this hand a lot because this hand really is the big personality of this pose, right? It's the biggest part of this pose and the biggest part of this animation, really. I shouldn't say pose, biggest part of this pose. This pose is the biggest part of this animation. This is storytelling animation, right? If you see somebody doing this in one pose, this pose is telling the story of what's going on, right? Sorry, I just got to pull something up real quick. This pose is really telling this story, right? And so we want to, and the fist is the most important part. That's what people are going to be looking at the most, because they are looking at, that's what they're looking at. Okay. Okay, so we're going to have him looking over this side, and we might, let's see, let's have his hand actually following his, so we're going to be switching it twice in this scene. It's going to here, let's see, but in this one, it's switching, and then we're going to switch it again. I just got to and we just need to reposition that. Right, and then we're gonna want to turn his body. Oh shoot! What's it following? Let's see. What's his hand following? His hand is following. I want it to follow his shoulder there. So body space, let's go like that, and then let's change it to shoulder space. Let's see if that's following. Yep. Okay. The reason, and for obvious reasons, I wanted to follow the shoulder space because he's going to be rotating his chest the most, right? His core will rotate a little bit, but his chest is going to rotate the most, and he's going to be doing that, right? And so we want to have it follow the chest. Yeah, the hand pose is looking fantastic. I just love the hand pose. It's looking so much fun. Hands are the hardest thing to draw. They're not too hard to pose out because it's, you know, CGI and everything. It's 3D and you have these controls and everything, but they're hard to draw because they're so important, right? They can make or break a drawing, right? Easily. The hands don't look accurate. It can make or break a drawing, and that's why they're so hard. Is because it's easy to know when they don't look correct or when they do look correct. Okay, so he's looking over the side. He's looking over the side first, and he's gonna go, yeah, right. We'll just do. He's up in the air now, and then he's gonna go down and back up. Yeah. Let's see. Have him do it twice, right, in our blocking. He's gonna go. Let's pull this arm out just a little bit, actually, and we're gonna have to pull his shoulder out. like this just a little bit, because I want him to go in like this, right? And he's going to go, yeah, right? He's going to do one big one and then a small one. Yeah, right? It's big and then it's small. That's what we want to do. And so it comes in, does a big one. It's going to rotate in like this. And then it's going to do a small one. Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's feeling really good to me. Just scrubbing through this. It's feeling really fun. It's feeling really good, right? Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the other side. He pumps his fists. Yeah. And then on this frame, he's going to go to the other side. Right? So you look to the side. Gonna just make sure that it looks good from the front and the back, right? Front, when we're doing the in-game animations of when the player's doing the cart, you don't have to pay as much attention to the front side, because, I mean, you do want to make sure it looks good too, so you can have, you know, if you want to put it on your demo reel or something like that. But from in-game, you don't have to focus, especially when you're just trying to get the animations done for in-game, to get them in the game and to test them out and everything. You don't have to worry about the front view, because you can't see the front view of the character in this kind of a game, right? It's not like you can rotate the camera 360 degrees as you're racing. It's always going to be fixated behind the character. It's always going to follow the character wherever they're going, right? And so, but in this kind of animation, like we already talked about, you will be able to see the front of the character. And so it's good to make sure that mostly you're stay on the front. It's good from the back, because I think just like in Mario Kart, probably go from the back, you know, transition from the back and then rotate to the front like this, because it's already in the back. It's gonna either go this way or this way, one of those two, as accustomed to any racing game, snowboarding games, pretty much any racing game, right? Okay. Maybe go back to this pose and just realizing this. We can probably push this by rotating him like this. Yeah. Yeah. And so when he's to this side, he's going to lean over, right? When it's this side, he's not going to lean to this side. It feels awkward. Yeah. And then he's going to, let's see. Here, he's going to lean over like this, and then when he comes over here, he's just going to sit up straighter, right, like that. He's going to do another big one. So that. And comes over here. He comes over here. Does a big one. And then another small one. And because this is going to be a loop, right, so I actually didn't think about that. This is going to be handled in probably 2 animations, but we can animate it all in one animation, him slamming down the hammer, right? And then after that slam down, the animator or the animation is going to go into a loop of him going, yeah, right, and it's going to go into that animation. But we can animate it all into one thing. And so what we need to make sure we do is we go back to this starting pose, right? Just like any other game loop, it needs to go back to the pose it started in. So he does the small pump. Oh, let's see. He's up right here, goes down, up, down, and then he just go back up. And then he's just going to go back to this, right? And so after we're done doing this whole animation, we want to make sure it flows nicely, right? So we want to make sure that when he throws the hammer down and then goes in this, it flows nicely, because the animation is going to consist of him throwing the hammer down and then coming up, and then this is when the first animation is going to end, and then when the new animation is going to start. So we want to make that feel as smooth as possible, and so animating it all in one animation is a good idea. Just like in like a jump loop, right? If you're animating in a game where you're jumping, it's a good idea to animate the jump actually jumping in the air and then coming down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to animate the jump up. You're going to animate the hang of the character hanging in the air and falling, and then you're going to animate the land, right? But if you do that in all one animation, it's going to look really nice and smooth, and you're going to only have to make a few adjustments depending on how it looks in the game. At least that's the way I do it at my studio with the jump animations that we do. And it tends to come out looking pretty good. Okay. Pull this in. And you're gonna wanna pull that up like that when he switches over to this side. And then, let's see. I kind of want to pull, since this animation is pretty prominent, I want to pull his hoodie out. Make sure it doesn't. And this and his body is. And we are going to add a frame in here. Okay, so but I'm just focusing on the blocking for this right now, right? Yeah. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we're going to grab all the controls, including the mallet parent constraint, right? Because we animated that too, and we need to make sure that we include that when we're adding frames, because we're going to add a couple frames here for the animation for when he throws the hammer down or whatever, right? Because he's got to anticipate that. He's got to pick it up and then throw it down, right? We need to block that in. And it's going to happen quick, right? But there's going to be hang time right here, and then boom, he's going to throw it down. Kind of like when we animated the swing, right? But I kind of want to lift it higher, right? This is kind of a little bit more epic than just a hit, right? This is a really, I won. Boom, I'm super proud of myself. Boom, right? He's going to throw it down. It's going to look where he's throwing it because it's very intentional, right? Pull that over here. I imagine the camera is going to stay behind the character for this part, so we can see that hammer smash, boom, and then as he's pumping his fist, it's going to rotate around. But I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it will. Something will change. Maybe they won't do that. Apologize. So just like in our swing, we're going to want to rotate this mallet like this. Maybe we want to lean him back a bit more. Like this. His arms stretching a bit here. Pull it up. Oop. Still looks. I mean, you can see the pinching, but it's still pretty much holding its integrity. Upper twist, and we can just do an upper twist there, where it looks fine. Oops. It goes up. Then he's gonna. Right. And you know what? Actually, yeah, his hand is fine. That's cool because whenever he swings his mallet, the rocket propulsions, boom, it's really cool. So we'll add that in the rocket propulsion of the mallet will aid him smashing it down. So we'll animate that as well when we get into polish mode. Let's just see where we're at in time here. Looks like we're at 42 minutes. And so we'll be pretty much done with blocking today. By the time we end, we'll be good. We'll be doing good with blocking. Okay. And I'm actually not a fan of the of him smashing it down himself. I like the idea of him pulling it up and just kind of throwing it down, right? Boom. Throws it, lets it go. He throws it and he lets it go. I like the idea of that. And so we're gonna take the parent constraint and we're going to move it here. Right, and it let's see, right here it's on, and then it turns off. Nope, it doesn't. It turns off here. So we need to turn it off right here. It's gonna wonky, give us wonky stuff, right? But that's okay. We can actually just ignore this. We can actually just copy this frame to this frame. Right? And that gave us a lot of our stuff back. And then we're going to rotate. Oops. Let's see, what are our rotations here that we need to focus on? The X. So let's rotate the X to 0. And that didn't completely work. Of course it did not. Let's see, it's supposed to be sitting flat, right? So let's just go like this. Let's go 0. Oh. See, is it? That's so strange. That's why I added a rotation in there. Okay. Make sure the right things are rotated correctly. And so let's just actually go back and put this back where it was, and then we can go and rotate this to 0 and get true rotations on this. and the X will zero out. Right, there we go. And then we're going to change the Y like that. Okay, and so now we need to, and so he's not leaning over and his arm is just stretching out. We need to pull him back up, right, if he's going to throw it at the ground. And I'm guessing this mallet's not going to bounce anywhere. It's a pretty hefty mallet. And so it's not like it's going to hit and then go boom, boom, right? It's just going to, right? Especially with the crushing rock effect. So we're rotating this hand back up like this, and we're going to build another really solid, cool hand pose out, right? Because that is another big storytelling pose. He's letting that go, and so that hand pose, you want that hand pose to feel really good. Right. Okay. 0. Right, so you might be like, hey, it's doing exactly what we wanted to. Yes and no. You know, you can tell when a hand is relaxed or when it's like doing something that is just other than zero out. This looks pretty close to what we want, but we want to give it some curve and some life, and so we can actually take all the controls and just rotate them down just a little like that. Right. So it's not just a zero pose. You can tell when something is just, and then kind of rotate this thumb back. So it throws it. Right, let's scrub through that. Okay, that pose is looking a little bit like so we want to rotate that hand down so he's like, right, almost as if he's still holding it, but instead he just flicks his wrist. And so kind of a kinked wrist, right? And we want to rotate this hand inward like this too, because it's still going to be pointing the way of the mallet. And then our elbow needs to reflect that as well, right? And his head needs to look in the right spot. Right, because it's very intentional. If a character is doing something very intentionally, they will always, a human being, in fact, if they do something very intentionally, they will always look at what they're doing. Right? If it's unintentional, like walking or something, they're not going to look at the ground while you're walking, make sure you take every step. It's very unintentional. Like you're intentionally walking. And in fact, when you take a first step, you might actually look at the ground for a sec and then start walking. Right? Always. So that's a good thing to remember. It throws it down like that. Yeah, I like that. Throws it down. Let's see. Looks like the pose is changing a little bit. And we don't need that frame anymore since we are having it happen soon in a different time, right? So it throws the hammer down. Actually, we do need that pose, but we only need the pose to rotate on the Z and Y. So we're just going to go Z and Y, zero those out. It looks like the Z rotation and Y translation. Oh, it's X rotation. I keep forgetting that. Okay, everything is good to go now. Slams the hammer down. Yes, I'm awesome. Boom. Picks up. That's right, I'm awesome. He's pumping his fist. He's super happy. I don't want to animate the nodding, right? Because he's going to nod. He's going to go. He's not just going to. Maybe he will. So, yes. No, he's going to nod just a little bit. But I want to add that in the polish phase. Or I'm not going to add that in my blocking. You can. But I think it might feel just a little bit repetitive. At least for me, I know that with small movements like that, I only want to animate the big movements in stepped. That's the way I work. I animate the big movements in stepped, right? The small movements I do secondary, because I feel like you get a little bit more of a natural human type feel when you do it in spline mode or polish mode. Okay. So I think actually we're ready to time this out. Let's see if we have some time here. We're at 50 minutes, so we got enough time to time this out and make this feel awesome and see if we need to add any more keyframes. Remember, we need to go and grab our parent constraint here. So let's go ahead and time this out. So he's going to get into that pose really quickly, right? We want to have contrast here. We want to have contrast of timing and texture of timing, right? And so he's going to get into this pose really quickly, and then he's going to hold there for a minute, and then he's going to slam it down. Get this anticipation, right? And he's going to slam it down. And so he's going to get into this pose really quick, and then he's going to hold right here for like 4 frames, and then do that. I want to actually pull this in like this. It's too far for me. I don't like how the wrist is doing that. And I might want to change that upper twist. Maybe not. I don't know. We're gonna have to. Right. So he throws it down. Throws it down. Throw down. Let's see. Throw down, and then yes, he's not gonna. I will have him hold there for just probably. Let's see. Throws it down. Uh-oh. I unselected my parent constraint, I think. Let's see if I did. Yep, I did. Make sure you have the parent constraint selected. Right, so he throws it down like this. He's going to go into this a little bit slower, and then this is going to be faster, the slow to throw down. And then he's going to hold there for just probably 2 frames, and then he's going to go up into the yes, right? This bigger one's going to be slower, a little bit slower, and then the small one's going to be faster. Right, and this might be too fast, but we don't know yet. We need to see the timing. Yeah. So he's going to go over to the other side a little bit slower, and then he's going to do quicker hand pumps. Yeah. And looks like when I'm doing this, I'm going, holding this pose for just a frame, maybe 3 frames. Yeah, right, and I'm holding that for just a minute before I go over to the other side. So I want to make sure I put that in there, and then build, and then add the frames where necessary, right? Yeah. Holds, goes over, and then comes back over to the side. So let's go ahead and look at that and see how we're doing right there. 70. And I just want to change this so it's not. Oh, I got rid of a in between. Oops. I want to take just the hammer and delete that. Okay, so let's look at this timing here. So I specifically want to look at the hammer. Since I'm going to be breaking these 2 animations up, I want to look at it separately. Of when he throws the hammer down, and then at the loop, right? And so he throws the hammer down here, and this is where he's going to throw up put his hand up. So 13. Let's do 13 frames and see how that looks. It's gonna be really fast. It's gonna keep playing the same thing over and over again really fast. In fact, let's go to like 18, see where that puts us at. Yeah, okay, 18's perfect. Okay, I'm liking how that's looking at the timing on that, right? And so let's go to 18 where the loop starts. Well, 19, I guess. And then ends at, I think, like 65 or something like that. Or 50, I guess. No, wait, it's like 80. Let's get 50. Nope. Let's see. 80. Okay, he comes back on frame 55. Something strange is going on. Let's see. Okay. You know what? I'm actually deciding that I like this pose more than that pose. That last pose more than the first pose. It looks like I'm changing positions here for some reason too soon. Looks like my hoodie is. It looks like I'm grabbing the hoodie. Looks like this is in this control here. So I'm just going to do that. Oh, that little stinking head. Let's just get rid of that head. Pose right there. Oh, grab the jaw control. My bad. Okay, and then the shoulder. This shoulder is doing something funky as well. My goodness. There's a lot of controls that I did not realize were doing things on this. The armband. Okay, looks like that's clean now. My goodness. Okay. There we go. I think that's cleaned up now. Except the hood. I don't know where I went wrong with that. Maybe I didn't have it selected or something by accident. I'm not sure. Okay. I think that's cleaned up now. It's going to look a lot better. Obviously, this is just in blocking, right? I might have to time this out just a little bit more. Feels like he's a little bit fast when he's going, he's just, yeah. And so maybe we want to pull that out just a little bit more. Let's see. Let's go to 60. And I want to pull, I want to change it so when he flips over to the side, right? It feels a little fast. And so let's put some frames in there and then let's check it out again. I think that's looking good. So let's go ahead and we're gonna step all the keys, right? So make sure you grab that as well. Well, actually, no, you don't have to grab that since we don't want the parent constraint to be on all these frames, right? We have our timing set and everything, so we're just gonna go like this. We're gonna make sure we do greater than sign and S to lock down all of our curves, right, with animation on it, right? And then for our parent constraint, it's already doing it in all the spots that we want it to do, and so it's good. So let's see how much time we have left, and I think we're out of time. Yeah, we're at 1 hour and 1 minute. So we're gonna wrap this video up. Now in the next video, we're gonna go ahead and polish the animation, right? We're gonna give it a lot more life. Right now, let's see where we're at without the controls. I haven't saved it in a while. Yikes. Okay, I just saved it. Okay, boom. Yes, yes. I like that a lot. I think it's going to be really, really fun in game. I like it way more than my other Celebrate where you have the hammer over his head, right? It just looks a lot more fun. And he looks like, yeah, and I'm glad we made the decision. Well, I made the decision to, instead of going like this felt like a little childish, and so doing this felt a little more manly, a little more masculine, and so I'm glad I decided to do that choice. So yeah, I mean, next time we're going to be doing the polishing pass on this. Today we ended on making sure all of our controls had the key on the same keyframes, right? And that's going to serve a big purpose. And yeah, I mean, this has been great doing this animation and blocking it in. Whoever watches this video in the future, thank you for watching the video and tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next time.